everybody is speaking out about this in regards to the Phillies, and really after Wednesday night's bad loss to the Toronto Blue Jays, but it's really been building up over the last few weeks, and it is in regards to the lineup. We're going to get into all of that today. What necessarily fans aren't happy about, because really it's basically a split decision right now, but I think there could be some time and a change possibly coming soon to the Phillies lineup. But before we do that, I do want to remind you guys to please subscribe to the channel if you have not already. Just 35% of our viewers that are watching our videos have subscribed so far. We want to get that top number down, the bottom number up. Myself, Sean Bernard, are uploading over one video a day right now here on Phillies Digest. This is the best place on YouTube for all things Phillies. But the situation I'm talking about is Bryson Stott in the leadoff hole. I was pretty in favor of it. I've never had a crazy take on the lineup other than I think the Phillies win a lot of games when Kyle Schwarber's in the leadoff spot. Going into this season, I was cool if it was Schwarber. I was cool if it was Turner. That was kind of the two options. They sort of floated Stott around in that leadoff spot in spring training. They never really did it. And then once Trey went down for a few games, they tried it. It started to work, and they left him there for a little bit. Bryson Stott has been struggling a little bit over the last, I would say, 2-3 weeks. On the season now, the stats, for the season don't look great. So he has 26 RBIs. The biggest thing is the 316 on base percentage. I don't need Bryson Stott to have a 950 OPS. But if you're going to have him hitting in that leadoff spot, the on base percentage, that 316 needs to be more around the 350 mark. He has 52 hits and 209 at-bats, 11 stolen bases, which is nice. He's obviously not striking out a ton, but his OPS plus is only at 87, where league average is 100. He's slugging just 354. It hasn't been the best season for Stott. The Phillies are their lineup is going a little cold, over the last week. It's back and forth, hot game. One night, series opener in Toronto, they go out and put 6 runs up in the first inning, and then Mick Abel makes his second career start. He looks really good again, and they only put up 1 run, and they lose in the 9th, and it's pretty hard for me to blame Jordan Romano. Going against your old team, specifically the guy who hit the walk-off was his former catcher for the last 5 years. So if there's anybody that knows Jordan Romano, as good as himself, it's the guy that caught him for 5 years. The issue of Wednesday night's loss was not anything pitching. It was the lineup. And a lot of people have been floating around, when is it time to maybe get Stott out of there? This is honestly what I thought was a great sort of look at it from Tim Kelly of On Pattison. He said the Phillies obviously need Bryson Stott to begin to turn some of these foul balls into hits. I think we all know how good Stott works in a bat. If it feels like once or twice a game he's working an 8, 9, 10, 11 pitch at bat. Working the count is useful, but some of these balls should be hit, and Tim is absolutely right. Stott this year hitting just 240 with a 638 OPS in the leadoff spot, 3 homers, 21 RBIs, 37 hits in 36 starts in the leadoff spot. Granted, it is just a small sample size, but in the 17 at-bats he's hitting 7th this year, he has a 1.123 OPS, and I know it's a very, very, very small sample size. But then I show you these sort of splits, and this isn't a small sample size. Trey Turner, 16 games started in the leadoff spot this year. He's hitting 320 with a 363 on-base percentage, a 493 slugging percentage, and an 856 OPS. Batting second, he's just hitting 292, obviously just 292, with a 351 on-base percentage, a 423 slugging percentage, and a 774 OPS. His OPS, obviously, in 26, I guess that is, less games, but it's still 100 points higher hitting leadoff. And I think, the Phillies are going to have some sort of decision to make eventually, because I think right now they are just sort of floating around with the lineup. Obviously, it's early, and realistically, it's not early, but it still kind of is. You still have all of July, all of August, all of September, right? But they're going to have to get to the decision eventually if it's time to move Stott out of there. Maybe you slide him back to the 6-7 hole, put Turner there, hit Harper second, have Schwarber third. I think a lot of this, sort of relies on a bat that they could get at the deadline. It seems pretty obvious that the Phillies need a right-handed bat that can hit for power at the trade deadline. There's been a lot of names thrown out there. I know, I came on here and said maybe about the possibility of Reese if the Brewers came down, but it's not necessarily about who the player is. It's the fact that if the Phillies go and get, a right-handed power bat, there's a really good chance he's probably going to hit cleanup in this lineup. So that would then turn into Turner, Harper, Schwarber trade at the deadline, and then Stott would slide back. So realistically right now, I think a lot of this sort of depends on what they do over the next 2 months. If there's a call up, what they're doing. But Bryson Stott is an unbelievable defender. I mean, some of the plays, I don't know if anybody saw the play that he made. I believe it was last night, where he fielded a ground ball up the middle, diving play, full sprawled out, where he couldn't even see the ball. The umpire was blocking the ball. He's an unbelievable defender. He works counts. He's a great base runner. He's just not having another great year at the plate. And listen, you can sacrifice Stott's, 900 OPS for an OPS around 700 to 750 if he can get it up to there for the defense, the base running, and all of that stuff. That's okay. Everybody in your lineup doesn't need to have a 900 OPS. But a 610 OPS, it's not great for that type of hitter, once again, to be at the top of your lineup. He's slugging 354, 87 OPS plus, once again, like I said earlier. Just a 316 on-base percentage. And that on-base percentage really is the key number. And, I mean, if you look at the stats from years past, it's pretty similar to last year. The top two lines are this year. The bottom two lines are last year. It's hard, to look at the top line of each category because that's, based on how many games you play. But you look at the 245 average. His average was 245 at the end of last year. His average right now is 249. His on-base percentage last year was 315. His on-base percentage right now is 316. There hasn't been that improvement, and I don't think there's enough improvement there to continue to justify him hitting leadoff. And, listen, if they want to leave Stott there and let him figure it out, realistically, I'm okay with it. Like, I'm not, Pickett signing Stott to be out of the leadoff spot, but it's definitely something that they're going to have to consider. And once again, I really think it depends on what they get at the trade deadline. I think this is something you can probably let play out for a few more weeks, hope Stott gets hot. Granted, if he goes 0 for 4 again like he did last night, maybe they change something up in Pittsburgh. I don't know. I don't think any drastic changes are going to happen right now, but a lot of people are talking about this because I think it's something that we could see in the future. Once again, it really all comes down to, I've said this 4 or 5 times already, it all comes down to what they do at the trade deadline. I'm going to throw a name out here, Ryan O'Hearn, or, if they moved a lot of moving parts around and I saw a guy like Eugenio Suarez get thrown around. Obviously, he plays third base. They'd probably have to move off a bone, blah, blah, blah. That's not really the point. If you get a bat like Eugenio Suarez, he probably hits cleanup, which then slides everybody up. Schwarber hits third, Harper second, Turner 1, Stott slides back. So it really depends, what they do at the deadline. But for now, Stott is back in the leadoff spot today. 3 o'clock game versus Toronto Blue Jays rubber match. JT Realmuto, just a quick update. I think we all saw where JT Realmuto got hit last night. He got hit in an area that you don't want to get hit on your lower body. And he was in some massive, massive pain. I will say JT is one of the toughest guys that I've ever seen play baseball. And for him to be in that much pain and have to come out of the game, it obviously said a lot. That hurt, if you know what I mean. He said that they're still intact today to reporters, so it seems like everything's good. He didn't go on the IL, which is a good sign, because if it was bad, he would have went on the IL, because catcher's a spot that you can't run thin at. Because if Rafael Marchand gets hurt in today's game, then all of a sudden Weston Wilson or Edmundo Sosa or Kyle Schwarber is back there catching. You don't want that. So seems like JT dodged a bullet. He seems to be okay. But Marchand is in there today. So just a quick lineup update for today. Let me pull this up really quick. So Stott Stott, Turner, Harper, Schwarber, Bohm, Castellanos, Kepler, Marchand, and Jesus Luzardo looks to right the ship after the worst start of his career last week. This has been the newest episode of Phillies Digest. My name is Luke Arcaini, and I will see you guys next time.